clare.miller.co.uk. But for now, let's continue speaking about the Queen's speech, delivered for the first time in almost 60 years, not by the Queen, but indeed by Prince Charles, due to the Queen's health. And the government's been accused of failing to help those struggling with the cost of living crisis in this year's Queen's speech that sets out the government's agenda for the next year in Parliament. Labour's repeated calls for a windfall tax on energy companies, but Boris Johnson's insisted they have been taking the right approach. Well, Clare Miller is CEO of Clarion Housing, the UK's largest social landlord, and joins me now. Good evening, Clare.
Good evening.
So there's a lot to get through. Let's start with the cost of living. What's your reaction to what we've heard today? Do you think it goes far enough to help tenants like yours at a time like this?
Well, I think the government's long-term ambition, which they talked about, moving to a high-skilled, high-wage economy, is undoubtedly the right ambition. The trouble is that will take us quite some time to get there. For new housing association residents, for my residents moving in today to a new Clarion home, the average household income is £15,000. So when you earn that amount of money, everything that you have is spent on necessities. It goes on food, on rent, and on fuel bills. And there is absolutely no room for households that earn that amount to have any prospect of having discretionary spend or even to afford the odd luxury. We know that many of our households even go without food on occasion because they just can't make ends meet.
Yeah, I've seen some research of yours. You said that 1 in 4 of the people that you asked already said that they were struggling to heat their homes, and that's before all of these recent rises. Yesterday we were hearing claims from the boss of Scottish Power. The energy price cap could hit about £3,000 in the autumn. That figure's daunting enough, even to people on an average income, but that must be absolutely devastating. Today's quarter of people you spoke to were already struggling.
Absolutely. One of the things we do as a housing association working with low-income households is we provide money advice and guidance, and we've been inundated with residents coming to us seeking to find solutions in this inflationary environment. And the honest answer is there are very few solutions for households that rely on such low incomes. Now, the Chancellor was very generous during the pandemic and very flexible in increasing universal credit on a weekly basis for the lowest income households. I would dearly love to see some of that additional flexibility introduced as we go through the next few months when we know that income for the households that we look after is going to be particularly stretched.
And what specific measures are you talking about?
So the Chancellor increased universal credit by £20 a week during the pandemic, and that made all the difference for struggling households. It doesn't need to be a permanent measure, but as a flexible tool to help people in the most difficult circumstances, that would be one thing the government could think of.
And we have also seen measures announced today to improve the regulation of social housing. So talk us through these then.
So the government today talked about the Social Housing Regulation Bill, which they hope to introduce into legislation in the next session of Parliament. This is a bill which seeks to update and modernise the current regulatory system for social housing. It's right that we have regulation in social housing because so many of our residents do not have very much choice when it comes to where they live and the services that they receive. And regulation enables landlords to be clear about the services that they provide and to do them to the best of their ability.
Well, it's great to get your input. Thank you very much, Clare Miller, the CEO of Clarion Housing. CEO of Clarion Housing. CEO of Clarion Housing. CEO of...